back in the building, back in the booth. The voice of reason. My grind is no different than anybody else's. Saying that it is just seems rather selfish. Though I've been luckier than some, I can't help it. Faced some hard times some of y'all couldn't have dealt with. Even when my dreams got smashed in the rubble, I strapped on my helmet, got back in the huddle. Tell all my people if they're having some troubles, when the sun don't shine, don't splash in the puddles.
Well, good morning to everyone. First and foremost, let me wish you a happy new year. Again, to those who I have not met or have not spoken to, have not heard me last week Friday when I was on the air and on TV and so on. Good morning to the radio listeners, to the televiewers, to those that are following my internet and the available medium. I am your host, George Pantophlet, candidate number 13 on the list of the National Alliance. A pleasant good morning once again. We all have to give thanks to God. Those of us that are here this morning, that are alive this morning, have to give God thanks for being alive. It is important for us to understand that it's a gift. Life is a gift. And once we can get up in the morning and breathe that air that God has put into us, we can say, thank God for another day. So again, to all of you, a blessed good morning. Today is a special day. Why? It's 2020. 2020, turn of the century. We started in the 20th century, now it's the 21st century. For those of us that were born back in those days, we want to thank God for that. And to all of you again, a pleasant morning. As you all know, we are in election mode. As a matter of fact, this is the last week before election. On Thursday, January 9th, 2020, will be elections. And as I said in the past, whether we want to or not, we will be having elections. It is set, and it must go on. This year, 2020, we have to look at it as a special year. A year of prosperity, a year of success, a year of hope. We need to have hope in order to continue in our lives, especially the challenges that we are facing in the past, and will be facing in the future. There's a preacher that said, you're either going into a storm, coming out of a storm, or in a storm. You're either going into a storm, coming out of a storm, or in a storm. It's your attitude during that storm or that crisis will determine your success. And I want to implore you, encourage you, that no matter how negative life might seem, there's always the light at the end of the tunnel. But it's up to you to have the determination to push forward, to make sure that you make it, because God has made it possible for all of us once we put our trust and confidence in Him. Now, people of St. Martin, voters of St. Martin, as I said, January 9, 2020, there will be elections. What will you do? What will you do? It is up to you, my people, to ensure that you get the government in place that you want. If you want change, you have to vote for change. I might sound repetitious, but the fact is, sometimes we seem to get in a place where we forget, or we say, well, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to vote. But I'm reminding you again that it is your responsibility to do so. And if you don't do it, then those of us who vote will determine your future. So make sure you have a word in determining how your future is going to be. And it's not your future alone. It is your children's future. It is your children's children's future that you're determining today, or you're determining on the 9th of January. So please go out and vote. Then the question will be asked, what does government, or what is government responsibility towards the people? What is government responsibility towards the people? Let me remind you that on January 9th, you are voting for 15 members of parliament. I believe there are 122 or 120 or whatever candidates. I have not really kept track or kept count, because that is not important. Important is where you put your vote. And when you vote, you are choosing people to lead you, to make laws for you, to decide your future. You're going to be voting for 15 members of parliament. And it's important for you to know exactly who those persons are, what they have done, or what they can do for you. And one of the things you are sure, and I'm sure now the voters, you are much more educated today than yesterday. With social media, there's more information coming out. You hear a lot of us talk and so on. So you can determine, basically based on the persons, what they say and their actions, if they correlate one with the other. But again, it is up to you to vote to decide who you want to represent you in Parliament. There are many promises that are being made. There's some that are realistic, there's some that are not realistic. I believe it is important when a person makes promises to the people of the voters of St. Martin, and the people of St. Martin, they are promises that are attainable and thought out. That's why I call my program the voice of reason. You see, I could say I want to increase your salary. I want to come with a living wage. I want to come increase funds to your pension. I want to control this. I want to control that. But the issue is, how do you plan to do so? You must be able to give people a picture as to what you want to do and how you want to do this. Many of you know that I call it my baby, and that is the short-term contract. I will not get much into it today because I've done so in other programs, but I can assure you that in future programs I will continue, because for me, nothing is more important besides your health than job security. You could want to buy land or get land or whatever you want to do. You want to buy a vehicle, you want to take out a mortgage. If you don't have that income and that consistent income, then you will not be able to secure your future or to be comfortable with life that will come in the long run. You'll be voting for leaders. Now, one of the important things is, if you're going to vote for a leader, you must know exactly who she or he is, what their background, what they have done, what they can do. I had the ability, or the possibility, rather, to be an island council member. Had a possibility to be island secretary of the Ministry of the Education, of Health, back in the Antilles. I also was Vice President of Parliament. I was also a member of Parliament, of course, Chairman of Committee of Finance and the Committee of Justice. And one of the things that I realized, that if you want to be in leadership, first and foremost, you must know the subject matter, what you're talking about, and how you plan to deal with it. And in order to be a good leader, you must be able to understand where the people are, and they must be willing to follow you based on what you say and based on what you do. And this is key. We always hear complaints that St. Martin is lacking leadership. And unfortunately, I agree with that statement, because the fact is, you have to have leadership that is stable. And this is why, again, I'm going back to the issue of voting. You have seen over the last 10 years, this will be the 5th election in the last 10 years, there is no stability. And without stability, it is difficult to achieve or to execute the plans that you make. And therefore, I'm saying to the people of St. Martin, when you vote for the National Alliance. There are 22 candidates on the list. I'm number 13, George Pantophlet, and I believe that we have what it takes in order to properly manage this island. I didn't say country, I said because we are a constitutional state. If you look at the laws, that's how we're made up. People call us a country, they can go ahead, I don't blame them, but I'm going to remain, I believe, accurate in stating we are a constitutional state, not a country. There can't be a country within a country. The Caribbean Islands is a country, we are not. I want to make that plain. However, that's not the discussion at this time. What I'm saying again, you must have leadership that know what they're doing, know where they're going. You must be able to defend you on all levels, not only on St. Martin, but also on the international level. And to do so, you must make sure you equip yourself in order to prepare yourself when you go and have the discussion. Because the fact is, when you go out there, the discussion are at a level that if you have not informed yourself or prepared yourself properly, you'll be lost in the midst of it. As I said, what do you expect? What do you expect from us as government? You expect us to look after your needs. It is a responsibility of government to ensure that the people of St. Martin get the proper care that they need. It is important that the government put laws in place to ensure that the social, economical benefit of the people are first and foremost. And let me say this to you. There have always been complaints of the fact, and they say that the NA is not a party of inclusion. The NA don't like foreigners. I've heard that so often now. And when I hear this stage, we have to correct them, because that is far from the truth. I can go back in the past again and recollect when schools were closed. The school at Mount William Hill, the Martin Luther King School, and the one at Colby, the Charles Leopold Bell School, and they were opened by both when the National Alliance was in office. So these things are not true, because most of the persons that went there were undocumented persons. But again, we were following the most important thing, according to human rights of the child, that a child must be able to have access to education. And that is what we did without having to look at any law, because as we have said, we're not into immigration, we're into education. Now, as I said before, the National Alliance is a party of inclusion. And why do I say this? When I look at our articles of incorporation, first and foremost, let me look at our philosophy. Our philosophy. The National Alliance believes strongly in the principle that unless the Lord builds a house, they labor in vain that built it. Except the Lord builds a house, they labor in vain that built it. People, I don't want to knock education because it is a key. It is what we need in order to survive or to make it in this world that we live in all aspects, in all facets. We need education. At the same time, however, there are certain things you need wisdom in order to carry them out. You can remember very well when, I believe it was Solomon, when David, his father had died, Solomon did not ask. He did not ask for monies or long life. He asked for knowledge and he asked for wisdom, because he said, God, how can I manage? How can I rule? How can I be responsible for these people? And so many people, he says, I cannot do it alone. So I ask you for wisdom and I ask you for knowledge. Now, another thing again with regards to the Articles of Incorporation of National Alliance. We are also a party, as I said, of inclusion. Article 4. The members of the association consist of the following categories: ordinary members, supporting members, honorary members. Now, I want to focus on the issue of the supporting members. And it says as follows, Article 4, point B. Supporting members are members who are above the age of 16 and who do not have the Dutch nationality. Listen to me carefully. And who do not have the Dutch nationality. This is why I said that the National Alliance, we are a party of inclusion. Okay? And it says that they also are supporters of the party. So this saying that we've been hearing all the time, where they said a National Alliance is not a party of inclusion or against foreigners, let's just put that to rest, because in our articles of incorporation, it has been made quite clear, and this is how it is. Now, as I said, government responsibility towards the people. What is it? Provision of public services, promotion of economic growth and development, and the operation of social insurance and welfare. Now, whenever I hear the word social insurance and welfare, the thing that comes to mind, I said in the beginning, is my baby, I call it, which is the short-term contract. As we know, it is a law that was adjusted very often in order to allow employers who are complaining about the fact of that it was very difficult to send home persons. And for the last 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and in the 2000s, the law was being adjusted to the point where, unfortunately, they flexibilized in order to make it easier for employers to send home workers. But at the same time, what it did, it allowed them to abuse the law. And unfortunately, as I said in several programs, this law has to be adjusted because it cannot continue like this. And I believe last time I said on January the 1st, which is yesterday, the Dutch government adjusted the labor laws where persons on temporary contract or even permanent contract, but also temporary contracts, if they are sent home, there's a law where I believe 75% is paid by government and 25% is supposed to be paid. In my explanation, this is what I want to insert there, should be paid by the employer. Because again, my argument remain fixed, and I will remain committed to ensuring that this law is amended to close many of the loopholes that have been used and is being used in order to send home workers. The point is, we need stability. We need stability. And this is why I said it is important. It is important that you go out and vote to ensure that the National Alliance has the full mandate the full mandate. Is it an easy task? No. It is difficult. But again, it is in your hands. I keep telling people all the time that the power to make the change that you want, it is in your hands. Barbados, the Prime Minister Otley, landslide victory. Who voted? It was the people that decided to give her that landslide victory. Dominica, Mr. Roosevelt Skerritt, out of the 21 constituents, he received 18. Who did it? It was the people again. You see, so the whole matter is, it depends on you if you want stability. If you want stability, you have to vote for stability. There are 7 parties. 7 parties vying for election. Over 102, 120 candidates. And out of those, you have the power. You have the power to decide who will represent you. And we have always said this, it is a fact. The National Alliance has never thrown on a government. National Alliance members have never jumped ship. They have always been consistent. If you look at our track record, you recognize the fact that we have been always getting the job done. Now, why not give us the full mandate? Give us the full 4 years, and you will see what we can do. Let me remind you that prior to Hurricane Irma, the 2015, 16, and 17 budgets were balanced. As a matter of fact, we even had a surplus. But unfortunately, Hurricane Irma came, and you know what the story is right now. What I'm saying, we as government, or we as members who are vying for Parliament, we know what it is that people are going through. One of the things that is difficult for me has always been the issue of going to somebody's home and see the condition that they're in. It is difficult because you feel like you want to save the whole world, but it is not possible. But at the same time, though, as a member of Parliament, there's legislation you can put in place in order to facilitate and to work on behalf of the social development of the people. You're listening to George Pantophlet, candidate number 13, Pearl 91.1 Pearl FM, and I'm saying to you that it's so important that you decide for yourself who you want to vote for. You have to decide for yourself who you want to vote for. It is totally in your hands. We as candidates can make our promises, make our plans, and so on, but in the final analysis, it comes down to you to decide what it is or who you want to represent you. It is important that we put legislation in place. And let me remind you, again, you are voting for a parliamentarian, not for a minister. Too often persons confuse these issues, and they are saying, well, yes, but I want a minister to this, I don't want a minister for this. I say, wait a minute. First and foremost, elect members of Parliament, and then the members of Parliament can appoint the ministers and so on, and we go down the ladder, because the fact is, they are the forefront. Without the members of Parliament, you can't have ministers. So you've got to start at the beginning, which is the legislators first and foremost. Something that really bothered me the other day, I met this young man who studied in the Netherlands, and he is very discouraged and disappointed because the fact is that he's making payments for his study finance that he received while in Netherlands. I think it was Udo, I think is the name of the organization, and he is being told or asked that he has to pay it in euros. While I understood that in Curacao they have made arrangements for him to pay it in guilders. So this is a matter that I have to look into seriously, because it should not be that we are part of the kingdom where one island is allowed to pay in its local currency, and then St. Martin, which again has always been, they want to get the most pressure from the Netherlands for whatever reason. I don't know, and I say the Netherlands because they're changing from Holland to Netherlands now. Instead of Holland, South Holland, North Holland is going to be the Netherlands now. Why is it that we all seem to be the one that gets the most pressure and not allowed to do X, Y, Z? So I'm saying there are students right now, or former students who are in St. Martin. They are working, they are collecting their salary in guilders and being told they have to make the payments in euros. And I find that is something that has to be dealt with. Also, what I think is important, their employers right now are their companies on St. Martin, who unfortunately we know how the situation is. They have had a 10-year tax holiday. And after that now, what they do, they either claim bankruptcy or change their name and so on, and then come back on another company with another name, of course, the same individuals, and then they ask for another 10-year tax break again. Back in 2005, I can remember very well, as a member of the Island Council, one of the proposals I had brought forward, and again, proposals I believe should be documented, because when I mention verbally, they can be recorded but still forgotten. And I said, this 10-year tax holiday, I think it's time we should stop it. Instead of allowing them to get 10 years tax break, let's say we have to pay, let's say maybe 30 or 35% or whatever, let them pay 10, 15%, not the regular amount, but let them pay much less in order for them to get things going, because yes, they're investing. And use the 10-year tax holiday, use that to give at least the local businessman a tax break of at least 5 years. Do you know what that can mean for the economy? We always say that the small businesses are the backbone, are the foundation of the economy. But they're the ones who are pressured the most. They're the ones who are taxed the heaviest. They're the ones who are being pursued all the time. What are we? That's double signal. That's double. It is either they are or they are not. And we know for a fact that they are. So I'm saying take the weight off of the small businessman and put it where it belongs, on those big investors. And let me say this to you. Don't think, and that's where I believe it is important that government has the guts to do so. Because remember, anything happens to your employees or your people, you are responsible based on the Constitution. You are responsible to ensure that they're taken care of health-wise, education-wise, infrastructure, home, everything. You are responsible. So therefore, it should not be that those sometimes who are contributing to this are the ones who get away. So I'm saying these are the things that must be adjusted, where, again, the small businessman gets the break and allow the bigger one to carry it, because I believe he or she is able to do so. And, don't be afraid that they might say, yes, we might close down, or we might lay off and so on. Then remember, we are working, and this is another one that I definitely want to get in place, is the unemployment law. The unemployment law. And as I said to you, the Netherlands adjusted because they realized that the purchasing power of the people were going down. They realized that people are not shopping as much as before. Because why? Things are getting more and more difficult. Things are getting more expensive. And therefore, it is difficult for them to keep up with the demands of life. The cost of living. Salaries remain fixed. Costs go up. Food costs go up. Rents go up. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a pensioner just last week. And he was sitting outside of a church building, and his head was down. I asked him, what was the matter? He said that the landlord told him that he wants him to leave. And why? Because he wants to increase the rent. And this is the thing that I'm trying to understand. Why would you want to increase rent on specifically a pensioner who has a fixed income, who has money that he has to control? Because why? There's no additional income at all. He depends on his pension alone. And he's being told that he has to leave, and the reason there's no reason given as to I want to do XYZ, but he wants him to leave because, again, based on what I was told, this landlord or landlady wants to increase the rent. And these are the things that it is very important for us to look after, because the fact is, government is responsible for these people, for all its citizens. Again, this St. Martin 98.1 Pearl FM. I'm your host, George Pantophlet, candidate number 13 on the list of the National Alliance. People of St. Martin, we have to make sure that as we think, as we meditate, as we concentrate on this election, that we understand that it is definitely not the mother of all election, not a very important election, but as I said during my speech, I believe it was in Soccer Garden, it is a dangerous election. It is a dangerous election. This is one that you should not say you're not voting. This is one you should not say you're staying home. this is one that you must go out and vote. It is essential that you do so. It is essential that you do so. I cannot emphasize it any more than this. Because once you stay home and you don't vote, then whatever the consequences are, they are for your account. You see, some folks say, yes, but I'm not going to vote. It doesn't matter what's going to change anyhow. If you want change, you have to be that change. You must vote. There's so many things I want to do. That tax law, the tax collection ordinance. And I heard a candidate talk about it, and I agree with him. The fact is, if you don't deal with that ordinance where pensioners like myself, because I'm also a pensioner, once you have your income, whatever additional income, whether it's rent or whatever, is added on, and you fall on the tax bracket for income tax as if you are an employee, whereas you are retired. So there should be a different system for that. It cannot be the same as it is right now. But at the same time, it has to be studied properly in order to make the proper law to put it in place. I can go as far back as 2005 because, that's my favorite year when I came to a lot of proposals and so on. But again, sometimes we're in a minority. To get these things passed, it is difficult. You understand? But I ask a question to this candidate, this present MP now, who's leader of the UD party. I said, how many, at the time they were, I believe, Commissioner of Finance, I asked via the Lieutenant Governor at the time, Mr. Franklin Richard, I said, Mr. Chairman, we would like to know how many pensioners we have on St. Martin. We would like to know how much they're being paid on St. Martin. And it was not specifically the amount they were being paid, but it was the fact that they were being taxed still. And my intention at the time was, if we know what is being paid to pensioners, and we know exactly what taxes are being deducted from them, we could take that and put it elsewhere. Find another account where we can use that money and then ensure that these taxes are not withheld from the pensioner. I'm talking about 14 years ago. So it's nothing new. It is nothing new. The issue is we have to be serious, sit down, put the laws in place, and ensure that they are carried out. I was reading something that interests me. I believe it was a politician from Great Britain. His name was Jerry Corbyn. And he said, he said, look, and let me paraphrase because the quote is a long quote. Essentially what he was doing, he said that there are many businesses in Great Britain, he didn't say England, he said Great Britain, that sometimes want to close down. I want to sell shares. And he said, look, before this happened, the workers should be the first one to have the opportunity to either buy or refuse. Of course, next question is, where will they get the monies from? I mean, you're talking about a company, he said, big companies and so on. He said, look, very easy. And I smiled because when I read it, I had the same question, where are you going to get that money from? Where are the workers going to get that money from? He said, government. He said, government. In other words, government is the one who's going to assist them in buying those companies. Now, that might sound far-fetched because he said, look, it is important that you don't allow these companies to use these tactics to get rid of these things and then allow the employees to be out on the street, as we would say, and then government has to find the money to take care of them. So if you are the one who is causing this problem, then you are the one who should pay for it. But it should not be that you close down, send in workers, and then government has no income anywhere else in order to take care of its people. So I want to say to you that it is important that all these things are looked at because, again, we need to ensure that the people of St. Martin have a stable government. And it can only happen if you go out and vote. If you go out and vote. Again, I'm your candidate number 13 on with the station, SXM 98.1 Pearl FM, George Pantophlet, talking to you, let you know exactly what it is I plan to do, what is my intention, because I've always been someone that believe in the people. I mean, my record at the Immigration Department, I had no idea I was going to get involved in politics. My plan was always been work as a civil servant, take care of people, do the best I can to ensure that I treat my brother the way I want him to treat me. And today I find myself in the political arena. There were times when I was at home, after last year's election, and I tried to relax, which I did a bit. But again, my mind was going a mile a minute, because when I'm thinking again, what is it that I can do for my people? What is it can I do? I can't relax. There's so much to be done. And St. Martin has potential. And the potential is you, the people. It is you. Don't put in your mind and say that it's the politicians. No, you have that power. God put up government and bring them down through the hands of men. So don't let this opportunity pass by. Don't let it pass by without going out to vote. Vote for National Alliance. Vote for number 13 candidate. Experience, I have. Information, I have. Knowledge, I have. But the most important thing for me is you, the people. Because without you, we are nothing. We say, with God, all things are possible, and that is true. But if we don't have you, to come out and vote for us, then our hands are tied. There is nothing we can do. It is all up to you. I'm urging you to please go out and vote. St. Martin is a beautiful island, blessed beyond measure. We got to thank God for that. At the same time, though, if you want to keep St. Martin beautiful, make sure we vote for stability. And that stability is in your hands. I repeat, the stability of St. Martin is in your hands. If you want to make a difference, you want to make a change, then you must go out and vote. 2020 is a wonderful year. As I said, a year of prosperity, a year of success, a year of adventure. What the future holds is in your hands. What you think and what you say is important, because whatever floods your mind is what you're going to say. And whatever you say can come to pass. When God created the earth, he said, let there be. And God said, God spoke. It shows you, my people, the power of the voice of reason. That's who I am, voice of reason. I am balanced. I understand life, I understand systems. At the same time, I know that by myself, I can't do anything. So I'm saying to you, my people, please go out and vote. Vote for your future. Vote for your children's future. Because if you don't do so, then you'll have the same all the time. Those that were not loyal to their parties because of the fact they had their own personal agenda, they have left with you. Not those of us who are loyal, who are faithful, who have stood firm, because we believe the National Alliance is a party of the people. As I read the articles of cooperation, it is a party of inclusion. It is a party of inclusion. So I want to say to you, God bless you. Have a tremendous, tremendous Thursday. Or those of you might hear it on another day, maybe the night or whatever. Please listen to the words. These are not words that I just made up. These are words that come from the heart. Come from my heart, because the most important thing, as I said, is people. So God bless you and enjoy the rest of the day.
What up? Come on. Back in the building, back in the booth. The voice of reason. My grind is no different than anybody else's. Saying that it is just seems rather selfish. Though I've been luckier than some, I can't help it. Faced some hard times some of y'all couldn't have dealt with. Even when my dreams got smashed in the rubble, I strapped on my helmet, got back in the huddle. Tell all my people if there have been some troubles, when the sun don't shine, go splash in the puddles.